Hello, hello. Welcome to my live stream. I'm Christine, and this is me in my studio today. And I'm just going to take an art break because sometimes that's what you got to do. So that's what I'm doing in my studio, and I figured I'd open it up and see, if any of you wanted to, if anybody out there wanted to take an art break with me. And today we're going to talk about painting boats and painting the water and reflections under and around boats. I have a whole bunch of different pictures here showing you kind of what we're going to be working on, or at least some sort of ideas. Here's some greeting cards that I made, painting boats on greeting cards. And I don't intend today to do a lot of drawing instruction on how to draw these boats, because I do have a really good pre-recorded video on that on my channel, and hopefully you will have watched that and be familiar with what I have there. These are some still shots from my sketchbook that I used in creating that particular video. And let's see if I can move these where they're not being blocked there. So I took pictures of my page of my sketchbook to show you. This is some of the stuff that's in there, and some of the stuff I show you how to do in that video. You can find that on my channel pretty easy. It's just called Figure 8 Sailboats in Pencil, Step by Steps. That's, I think, exactly what it's called. But anyway, that's where you can get some drawing instruction. And today we're just going to paint. It's really, like I said, just kind of an art break that I'm taking. But before we get too far into what I'm doing, I wanted to just go ahead and show you. Usually it's really boring to watch people tape their paper down to their board. But I did discover recently in a class that I did that I had said you need to have your paper taped down. Even if it's really good watercolor paper, you need it taped onto a nice sturdy board so that it won't warp when you put a lot of water on it. And I discovered that sometimes that doesn't quite come across right, and people misunderstand what I'm talking about, and they just tape the corners down, which is not what I'm talking about. So as you can see, with this piece of paper, I already have, let me get me out of the way so you can see it better. I already have all of those three sides taped down, and I'm just going to show you on this remaining side. What I mean for you to do is to take your good sturdy masking tape and take a piece that's a little bit longer than the width of your edge of your paper that you want to tape down, and you want to cover it over a little bit. Don't put it right too close to the edge. I'm covering over maybe 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 an inch of the edge of that paper, and then I'm going to push it down really good and just use my fingernail to make sure there's a good it's got a good adhesion around there, and that's going to hold that paper flat while we paint on it. So you do that to all four sides. And while you're working on getting your paper ready, if you're going to paint along with me, I'm going to just move this out of the way for the moment and pop up here. This is a painting I did, and it's in the frame, so there may be a bit of glare, and I apologize for that, but I didn't really want to take it out of the frame, so hopefully you'll forgive me and bear with me on that. But this is a nice boat that I painted because I was I think I was in Tampa when I took this picture. But anyway, this is a sailboat on a little bay, and most of this stuff was in the background of my picture that I took, because I think we were sitting like on an outdoor restaurant deck or something, having coffee and dessert, and it was late in the afternoon, and we had our coffee and dessert first because we were getting ready to make a road trip. Anyway, I shifted things around a little bit from how they actually were in the photograph. So I don't have a good reference photo to show you because my reference photo is actually 3 different photos. But what I've got here is some reflections of the color that's up here on the side of this. I don't even remember what was really there, but I decided to make it that, like dirt or something. There's trees and a little hillside. It might have been flowers, it might have been red dirt, I don't remember, but there was a lot of gold color reflecting in the water right there, and a lot of reflections of some of the masts of some of these boats and some of these tall trees, and there were like some street lights and a few things like that back there. But all of that was reflecting down into the water and making the water this color, and then you can see it continued on down in here, and there's some treetops, so I got some green in there. And then I've got a little bit of the shadow of this boat and the reflection of this boat in the water, and the main one big main mast is reflecting in the water. And I've got back here a little bit of reflection of these lower trees and little hillsidey whatever things it was back there. You know, we don't have mountains in Florida, so I don't remember what it was. And you know, I take a little bit of liberties and I put what I want in my picture. But anyway, I've got water coming across here and some ripples, so it wasn't really flat like a mirror surface, although it was more like that over here. But anyway, so what I want to do today is paint some stuff gearing up for, I'm going to paint this again in a much larger version. You can see this one is, let me see here, this painting, I paint small a lot. This particular painting is 10 by 7, and I have it framed out. It's probably an 11 by 14 frame. And this is perfect for at my house. But if I wanted to put this in an exhibit or something, it would really need to be larger. And also I'm finding a lot of small paintings just don't sell. People are looking for larger stuff when they go to art exhibits and when they're looking to buy art. So I keep getting friends telling me, paint bigger, paint bigger. So that's what I'm getting ready to do. I'm going to make that painting in a larger size, but in order to get there I wanted to just do some more practicing and work on some stuff and work out some details and maybe paint something just a little bit different, or I don't know, just experimenting. So I thought that was the perfect thing to do today, is to work on some of that kind of stuff to get ready for that piece that I'm going to do. And so what I've got here is, let's see, here's another reference photo. I pulled boat pictures off the internet like crazy, and I use several different sites. There's unsplash.com and pixabay.com, and there's another one that I can't remember right now, another organization, I think it might be Wet Canvas or somebody like that, that has an online library of reference photos that are free to use for artists. And so you can find really great stuff out there. Or, you know, if you're like me and you live somewhere like South Florida and you can easily run off to a lake or the beach or something and take some great photos of boats, do that. Get yourself some reference photos and take them at different times of day too, or find photos from different times of day, because that gives you a lot of more inspiration and ideas when you're looking for some way to put something on the paper and play and have fun with your art. Hi Sally, I see you waving at me out there. I'm glad you're here. And one thing I will say too quickly, if you connected via the ad that I put on Facebook, this is actually a YouTube live stream. It's not a Facebook live thing. So if you're commenting and asking me questions or stuff, make sure you're doing that on the live chat in the YouTube, because if you put it on the Facebook, I can't see that right now. I'll find it later and I'll answer your question, but it won't be, you know, in the moment. So if you have a question for me right now, make sure to put that in the live chat on the YouTube stream. And okay, that's enough of that. And also, I love it if you do put something in the live chat, because then I know you're there. I mean, I can see a number that says I got people here watching, but it's not the same as having someone wave at me. So, hi again, Sally. All right, so I have all these different reference photos with stuff showing water and reflections of the boat in the water. Actually, I think I have these two. Let's see if I can make them show up in this screen. I think I can. Oops. Nope. Yeah. Oh, that made me go away. There's one of the pictures. Is that going to bring up the other one? It's not doing it right now. Maybe if I switch over and just show you me for, oh wait, there it is. Okay, get me out from behind it. All right, so I've got this reference photo and this reference photo, which I kind of combined and made one picture, and you can see how I've got them lined up in my where can I point to it correctly? Over there in the little picture up in the corner, I've layered them so you can see how they look, and this is what I came out with when I painted that. And I have a video on my YouTube channel showing this. It's the Western Art Guild had me do a demo for them, so it's a live demo. It's a kind of a lengthy video, but you can watch me paint this if you want in that. I've also done a couple of classes through my local library of that painting, and so that video is a good one if you wanted to see how to paint that. But here's just some examples of what I do when I'm plotting this kind of stuff. Let me see if I can get something behind here. I drew on parchment paper because it was what I had to hand at the moment. But this, you can see, I just sort of plotted where I wanted to put that this boat in place of this boat, because I just like the look of this one better than this, and also I wanted this reflection there. So I took this background and I just drew it out there, a clump of trees and a little bit of mountainy stuff and some other shrubs and stuff, and then I put this boat in front of it, and I worked out how I wanted to do that on paper with pencil first, because it makes it a whole lot easier when you go to start your actual painting if you've got a plan going. So let's see, that's all of those that I was going to show you. But these reflections in the water, that's not the one I was showing you, is it? I like the reflection in the other one that I had out here better. I do paint this bunches of times, but you know, like I said, I've done a demo of it for one organization, and then I taught it in a class to a couple, so I end up with bunches of the same painting. But anyway, this reflection I like, but I don't have any reflections up here. So studying reflections is a cool thing to do. You end up getting your paintings to have a whole lot more depth, and they just look prettier. So that's why I do this kind of stuff over and over. And also I end up with things like, I found this picture online, and I love the sky in this, and I wanted to just combine that with this sailboat, which I painted like this, and then to take and change that up a little bit, I drew it in a little bit different angle, and I put that really great sky in there, and then I put in the background, I mean in the water, the reflections of the light from the sky down into the water. How did I get paint on myself? Anyways, I didn't even start painting yet. I'm already covered in paint. So let's see, let me get these items out of the way and put me back up there. Let's see here. There. Okay, so what I want to do is pick a boat and draw it. And I've got some paper ready to go. Again, I'm not really going to give a whole lot of drawing instruction today. We're just going to flip a boat down on here and then try a few different reflections of the boat reflecting in the water and the sail, and then also maybe of the sky. So let's get to that. Now these right here, I'm going to put them aside, but I wanted to just show you they're just greeting cards that I painted. You take your paper like this and you paint on one side of it and then fold it, and you've got a nice greeting card. Let it dry the whole way though before you untape it, or it'll be too warped. But anyway, you can make really nice greeting cards really quickly and easy this way. So a couple of rules real quick about painting reflections of the boat, and maybe I'll draw while I talk. When you are thinking about your reflections in the water, you don't want to have the boat obviously moving fast, because if your boat is moving, it's not going to be making a reflection in the water. You're not going to see it. There might be a little bit of a shadow, but you're just not going to see that. And also, if it's really windy, you could have a boat that's anchored and sitting still, but if it's really windy and the water's really choppy, there's not going to be that much of a reflection there either, because the water's moving too much. So you got to think about those things and draw your boat in such a way that it accommodates whatever amount of reflections you want to have. Let me see, this one right here, this boat's obviously moving, so I don't have a whole lot of reflection of the boat. And the way I say obviously moving, from the angle that I've got the boat put in and from the wake going in right back here, that's what cues you in to the fact that this boat is moving. But I did put reflections of the sky. The beautiful color in the light in the sky is reflecting down onto the water. And painting this the way I painted it, it's like it's in it's dusk. It's almost a silhouette. So it's late evening or else super early morning. I'm not really sure which one. It could be either one. But anyhow, doing that way with that sky, and then putting all this reflection of the color, and I really could have done this more. I could have put a lot more color, so maybe I'll do one like that. Let me see my reference if I can show you that. See how it's got the color of the sky is down into the water there. Hopefully you can see that good. Let's see if I zoom in on it. There we go. Yeah. So you can see the color of the sky is all in the water. So, and that's because it's a reflection. So that's a thing to keep in mind. Is your boat going to be, if you want a big reflection, such as was on, let's see if I can get the right picture to pop up here. Yeah, that one. All that red reflecting off the sail down into the water, that's happening because the boat's sitting still and the water's relatively calm. So you got to think about those kinds of things as well when you're making your plan. So now I'm going to go ahead and take me out of the shot, because I don't want you to be looking at the top of my head the whole time. And unfortunately I don't have a better way to arrange my camera than to have it do that. I mean, where it has to sit, that's what you end up seeing, the top of my head. So we'll just make that not happen. And let me find the right pen here. Oh, hi Mercedes. I'm glad you're here. Okay, I've got a 6B pencil, and I'm going to just put this particular boat right here in on my paper. Actually, do I want to do this one? Let's do this one first. This will be nice. And how do I want to, yeah, let's do one like this. This will be cool. So, let's see, have you got a good enough shot that everything is in the frame? It looks like it is. if I zoom in, might not work so good that way. A lot of it's out of the frame, so we'll stay with this screen right here. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and put a boat in, and I wanted it to be about right here, and I'm going to draw the back end of this boat first. Let's see, I want the boat sitting where on my paper? About, that's pretty good. So right about there is going to be where the boat sits, and I'm going to put the back end in. And again, if you want to know about this drawing boats, check out my how to draw sailboats with a figure 8 video, because I go into a lot of detail there, and that will be where you can get the good instruction on drawing your boat. Now let's see here, this is going to go right on up over to about right there, come down and over and round that in. That's pretty good. I'm going to put all the detail on the boat with the actual paint, with the paintbrush instead of drawing it in. Now I need a nice big sail on there. I'm going to have it come right about here, and I want it to go way up there, because the sail in this drawing is really, that's what dominates this picture, is that pretty blue and white striped sail. Now let's see, where way up here and over to way out here. It's going there, and then there's my sail coming right down there. And we got another one coming up here, just somewhere about here. And really, when I put color on here, once I start with that, if I haven't got my drawing exactly right, it isn't going to matter at all. It's just going to look pretty. Let's see, I see now I've got a different thing going on here with this one. Part of that sail is on this side of this mast thing, which somehow or other comes off of the side of that. I don't know enough about boats to understand what the heck's going on there with that, but that's good enough to get the drawing in place. And I'm going to just put, let's see, there's some sort of a motor or a rudder, I guess, maybe, I don't know, we'll call it a rudder. Comes like that, and then it's going to hit the water line there and disappear. Got a little bit sticking up there, and we got a guy sitting here. Does he need to be bigger than that? Nope, good enough. It's going to come over here, and there's his arm holding on to something. It goes back there. That's good enough, because we got the top of the boat in there. And then we got a guy sitting, oops, he needs a head. There's his hair, there's his face. Good enough. And then we got another guy sitting in front of him. Again, hair and a little bit of face. And just give him some shoulders. And that disappears down back behind the other guy and behind the boat. And that is all that we need for that detail. And one of you guys can let me know if I really need to zoom in. I'm thinking it's probably going to be better to leave it out like this, but if you want to see better than what I've got it, let me know in the chat. I'm going to pull this over here, and that goes back that way. Pull that over there. That's enough of that showing. Then I'll end up putting a line or two in here, and looks like we've got a little bit of a flag hanging off there of some sort, so I'll just put that there. And that'll be where I put the water. That'll be where the water goes on. Oops, that line's too low. Let's see, put it off there. Oops, not in the middle of the sail. And that just coming off there, and I'm going to leave off those other people in that little, that looks like a raft of some sort. I don't know what that is. I'm leaving that out of my picture. And then I've got some trees, which I'll put in mostly with my paintbrush. And I think for this, I'm going to just leave some sort of an indication that there's something there, but I'm not really going to put a lot of detail for what that is, but I'll just put that like that. And that'll let me put in some more trees right there, and then some lighter trees, and we've got just the least little bit of sky back there, so I'll do that. Okay, ready to paint. Now, first off on this, I think I will paint a lot of the background part in, because if you start in with painting this, then you're going to be painting around. And one thing I wanted to touch on today too a little bit was, you can, if you're going to be painting a lot of detail back behind your boats, you can use the same masking tape that you tape your paper down to mask out your sail. And let me just, I guess I'll show you what I'm talking about. I have actually seen artists take scissors, they tape this tape down on a board, and then they take some scissors and they get really fancy cutting out the shapes, and I have never really done that. I don't know if I'm not patient enough, or I don't think it's necessary. I'm gonna see, let's see that, if that comes down to about right here, then I can mask that bit of sail out just by putting that right there. It goes right up to the top there, and then I'll just pinch it in. Squish that right in there. And that part's covered over. Then I can take another piece, oops, and put something like that right over top of it. And then I need a little tiny pointy bit. There's a good point right there, to put over that top little bit. And I'm getting the sail masked out, and I don't have to wait for masking fluid to dry. And I don't have to wait for the paint to dry before I take that off. It's just, I'd rather do it with tape like this than the masking fluid. Someday maybe I'll show you something with the masking fluid, but this is my preferred method because it works, and I find it easy to do. Let's see here. I'm going to put this, how do I want to do this? Let me tear this along here like that and put it this way, right along the edge of there. And that way, when I go to painting the trees and the background, I can just paint it, and I don't really have to worry about painting up to it, stopping and starting over here. It makes it a little bit easier to have a consistent flow with your paint strokes, and that sometimes gets a better appearance in what you're painting. I'm going to use this little pointy bit to, maybe it needs to go that way. Nope. Put it right there, and then just bend it in so it doesn't stick over where I don't want it. Oh, here's a good pointy bit right here. This one's perfect for that. Put that right on there, right down along that edge. And then I can tear a little bit out of here to make that flag. And believe it or not, this is all that you need to keep the color out of that part of the paper and retain the white of your paper, which that's what you're going to be wanting to do when you mask anything out. told you I wasn't going to make you watch me put tape on the paper, and that's exactly what I'm doing. But this doesn't count. This is for a different thing, a different reason. Alright, so I'm covering that whole area all up there, except I want to go in a little bit right there. And I'll leave that right on there. That'll work fine. Yeah, that works fine for all of the background there. Now, I don't really need to mask out the boat or these guys sitting in it. Nothing in here is bright white, so if I get paint where I don't want it, I'll be able to use my paintbrush to lift the color back off of there, and that'll be fine for the skin and also fine for the side of the boat because it's not bright white, it's a little grayed down just a little bit. So that means pick up the paintbrush, and I'm going to use a flat angled brush. I think I'll use this one. I think it's a 3/4 inch, might be 1/2 inch, but I think it's 3/4 inch. Actually, let me use this larger one. This is a 1-inch brush. I'm going to use this larger one to start because I want to be able to just really loosely get some color on this background. So I'm going to get that part wet and go ahead and start throwing in sky and background tree color. And I'm not forgetting I've got this little section over here that's some sort of a building. So I'm going to use a really light color of blue. I've got something that's sort of sky blue. Actually, I should probably wipe some of this red out. I don't think I'm going to need much, if any, of that on today's painting, so let me just get rid of that and I'll have more room to work. Okay, so put my sky blue down right there. If it gets a tiny bit of that red in there, that's okay. It makes it go to a sort of kind of lavender, which is a good color for this sky. And I just want to just put that right on there. I'm not going to try to get any clouds or anything like that, and I'm also not going to work to get that really a smooth wash, because it doesn't really need to be. It's a sky, and if it ends up with a little streak of color, like it will if I put that in, because that's a little bit of, I don't know, bit of paint got loose there. Okay, so that's the sky. And now I think, let's see here. Let's put in a little bit of this Scarlet Lake right there on the paper, and then I'm going to grab some quinacridone gold and put that in there, and I'm going to use that color to start off my trees right here in the distance. Let's put those in there like that. I could have used burnt sienna or my transparent red oxide. Any of those colors would work, but I want to pull some of this quinacridone down in here and have that color transition into a really gold color for these trees in the background. So that's why I used that mix right there. And I'm just throwing that on there where I've got the paper wet, and it's just going to kind of run together with that other color. I'm going to pull it right down into here. Let's see, pull a little bit more there, and then I'm going to take well, this is sap green with a little tiny bit of phthalo green in it, and I'm just going to, since it's there, dab a little bit of that onto here. So I've got a little bit of green color going in there, and it's a lighter green. And I'm going to put some of it right back in there. And you see how I can just paint right over that tape? When we go to later pull that tape off, that paper's going to be white right there, and it's going to be perfect. Alright, so now I'm just touching a little of this lighter color down near the shoreline, because it seems like maybe some light might be reflecting there. I'm going to touch a little bit of green in here just for some color. Okay, that's pretty good for that. Now I need to put a darker bunch of trees in for this background, and so I'm going to just grab, I've got this little puddle of some blues and greens going on my palette, and sometimes you know, it's like, well, why didn't you just say exactly what color you were using? Because it doesn't really matter. A puddle of some yellows and blues to make a green that you like is really all that you need to be concerned about, because it's really kind of more important that you pay attention to what other colors you have in your painting and use those colors to create the colors you need with your mixes. And since I'm painting with all these same colors that are already on my palette, that's what I'm doing. And I can tell you I've got some quinacridone gold in there, and I've got some ultramarine blue, and there's sometimes I put in some phthalo green, but this is not a dark enough mix, and I'm going to go ahead and put in some indigo because I like it nice. It's a really nice dark blue color that can make some really pretty green shades for the darker foliage mixed with the quinacridone gold. So there, that's a pretty color, and I'm going to just put in some tree tops in here like that. I hope you can see how pretty that color looks. It shows up really good on my palette. I'm not so sure it shows up great in the camera. I'll have to hope that it does. Now I'm going to add a bit more of the indigo as I get lower in this thing, and I'm going to leave some splotchy parts so that it doesn't look like one solid color. I want it to look like there are maybe gaps in the trees where you can see through and see the stuff behind, and then maybe a dark spot right there for a shadow on the tree. Yeah, that's a little bit too much right there. Touch in a couple of dots, and while that paint is still wet, it'll spread around and, you know, paint your background for you really easy. As I'm getting down closer to the bottom here, in my reference, I'm seeing there's a bit of red color in there, so I'm going to kind of stop right about there and let some of that red color get in. And I'm going to lighten this up a little bit with a little more water, a little bit more quinacridone, because back here this is farther away than this, so this has a darker value. This has a deeper color because it's closer. This back here is, I want it to seem farther away, so I'm going to keep my color a little bit lighter there with a little more water in the brush. And same right here, just kind of scribble on some stuff that looks like foliage right there. Maybe a little bit of dark on this side. A little bit of dark coming up in here. And give me some just mostly indigo, but with a lot of water in it, and I'm going to touch some, oops, that's too much pigment, so let me blot that off. Add some more water there. And put a little bit of that on there. It's looking too green still, probably because of all that really bright green behind it. So what I want to do here is just get some ultramarine blue and just put some light. That's not going to look right either. I'm going to have to go with the indigo, but maybe I'll mix it with that ultramarine. Just put a little bit, that's better. Put a little bit of lighter looking trees back there. And then go back into my darker color and put that here again in the front of it. There, that looks more like what I wanted. now down in this part, I want something more similar to that. So mix up some more of something like that, put that in there, and that's coming down, and I see there are a couple of more little buildings there. So what I might do is just leave a little bit of white so I can go back in and put something there and get a bit more of this quinacridone and put that right there, kind of make it a rounded top. So there I've got some trees happening there, and then I'm going to do what I had said over on the other side. Let's see, let me put this in here first. Over on the other side where I said it's going into a redder color, I am going to get some burnt sienna and put it here beside my green. It's a bit too much water. There. Okay, now you can even see happening on my palette what I want to have happen over here. This color's running into that one, and the colors kind of push each other around. You'll find that when you're painting sometimes one color is a little bit more bossy than the other, and they'll shove each other around on your paper. Let's see, I've got a bit of the sail I didn't cover up right there, so I don't want to paint on that. So let me come right down into here, put a little bit more of this right there, and then I'm going to touch on some more green, and I'm just going to let it do on the paper what it's doing in my palette, and however it comes out will be good. It'll look pretty, and it'll have that loose watercolor flow thing happening because we just let the paint mix on the paper there. And I want to do something like that a little bit right over here, so get the blue back out of my brush, take out some of the extra water, touch this on here, and then pick up some more of the green and touch that on there, and just let them fight it out amongst themselves who gets to live where. And that's pretty good for the background. I think I'll take a little bit more of this quinacridone gold, lighten that a little, and just touch a couple of spots in there where I have a little bit more light showing than what I wanted. Just make it look sort of foliagey-ish. That's all you really need to do. Alright, now I'm going to come back to that in a minute. For this, I'm going to use a smaller brush, and I'm going to just take a bit of this turquoise. This is cobalt turquoise that I have right here in my palette. If you don't have that, you can mix a little bit of ultramarine and a little bit of phthalo green, which are just mix your blue that's like a royal blue or a regular blue, mix a little bit of your darkest green into that, and you can get something that's closely approximating this turquoise color. So I'm just going to put that little dash in there because there's like a building or something back there that's got that color on it. And then beside it, let's grab a little bit of this lavender and blue and just kind of touch that in there. I don't know what's going on back there for that building, but I don't need to have it really defined because it's in the background. I may do some touch-ups a little more later once that's dry. I can touch some more details in there just to, if I need to bring any more detail into that, but right now I don't. So and it's while it's wet, it's not the time to do it anyway. Let me clean that brush, clean this brush, and I think I will also at this point go ahead and start putting the water in. So I'm going to just get water right here, and it's okay if it touches the green right there because I do want some of that color reflected down in the water anyway. We don't have a lot of sky in this painting, so you're not going to see a lot of sky color reflected, but we do have all those beautiful trees, and so that's what would be reflected into the water, is a lot of the color from the trees. So I'm going to start off with some indigo right there, and I've got the paper really, really wet, so that's going to just go ahead and start running. Now, I didn't paint water over these guys. I don't want the water running into them. There is water back behind there, between the boat, the top of the boat, and the sail. Okay, so that's going down along there, and I'm going to want some of this on the underneath side of this boat, because this is my darkest color. So I put that right up at the bottom edge of the boat there, and then I'm going to get some of my green, the same green I used in here, although I want to darken it, because it seems to be that it's one of the rules that, well, actually, this should be lighter. It's one of the rules of reflections that the colors are a little bit opposite, are a little bit different in the water than what they are up here as far as value goes. But I'm going to just go ahead and scratch in a little bit, or scrub in, I guess I should say, a little bit of that green color that's in the water. I mean, that's in the trees. You want that in the water too. Then I've got a little bit more, where do I want the more yellow? I'm going to put it in here. I'm also going to tell you that you don't have to be perfect. What's up here doesn't have to be perfectly mirrored down here for it to look good, and so don't worry too much about it. Now let's see, I've got some ultramarine here, and I want to mix a little bit of indigo in there. I don't want it as dark as the indigo, but I don't want it straight ultramarine either. That'll be too blue. So I'm going to start to put some ripply lines in here to create water, and this water lays flat mostly, so you want to make your lines left and right or horizontal. And just getting those right up in there. Some slightly dark, a slightly lighter color than the indigo. And I don't have a lot of wake. You know, this boat's not moving fast, so there's not a wake, so you don't need to leave any like white caps or anything down on this part. And let me just green that up a little bit more, because I want some more green right here. And I'm going to try to leave some little bits of white, because it's the light reflecting into the water here. So I don't want to cover over quite all of it. And this lighter area that I just left, that's where I'm going to put the reflection of that sail, which I don't have painted yet, but from my reference you can see, you know, it's blue and white, but also you can make it whatever color you want it to be. I could paint that sail solid blue, or I could paint it red and white striped. It's just, you know, a matter of what do you want to do with it. And I'm going to go ahead and go with this pretty blue, because I like that blue. And I'm going to use a mixture of cobalt and cerulean. And let's see, let me clean a spot right there where I don't want that burnt sienna in it. But it's going to be okay if a little of my cobalt turquoise gets over in there, just to make it a really pretty blue. And this is a little bit darker probably than what I'll put on the sail, but I want it to show up in the water here. So I'm going to go ahead and lay some of that in here. Like that, and I think I'll put some of the turquoise by itself on there a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty. And I've got plenty of water on my brush right now, and going to do is make this start running and rippling and softening into the water that I have there. Now I'm going to probably let that dry and go back in over the top after it's dried. This is a little bit of a hard edge here, which I don't want in my water, so I'm going to just tickle that out of there. Okay, once that dries, then I'll go back in and put some more color over top of it, because I don't want it to turn to mud, but I do want a little bit more definition than what I have there. And so this is like the first wash, just some soft water laid in there, and you see I've kind of got a little bit of a hard edge going right there. I can fix that after this is dry. If I try to fix it right now, I wind up mixing all my color together, and I don't have the variation of color going on that I'm going to want to create the pretty ripples there. So at this point, I think I will go. See, I don't see any questions happening in the chat. Everything looks must be good. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and put this background in over here, and this is going to just be. I'll put in a stripe of this color because there's something that looks like a roof line and maybe a sign of some sort there. And oops, I think I put that down lower than it should have been. Take some of this light color I've got here. It's burnt sienna. I'm going to mix in a little bit of my Scarlet Lake. Make that a light, almost a peachy color, and make a line across there like that. And let's put another line there and a couple of lines like that. Put in a line back there. This is just kind of the roofs of this building peeking out from in the middle of all of this foliage. So I don't need to get really detailed with it. If I get too detailed and also too dark of a value, then it starts to take on the wrong appearance. It doesn't look like it's a building back in the trees anymore. So in order to keep it looking like that, I'm just gonna put light bits. Oops, that's a little bit too much there. Pick some of that back up off there. Put light bits of color in and push them around in such a way that I end up just with the indication of there's a building back there. I don't really have to paint all of the details. Now I will let that dry and go back in and put some of these darks for some windows and door stuff in there. And once that color dries, I'll put a more distinct horizontalish sort of a line in there. But right now I need to let it dry. Excuse me. Okay, now I think it's time to go ahead and take all this tape off here. You've got to be a little bit cautious with removing the tape. Maybe a little bit more so than you would have to be if you used masking fluid. But that's okay, I can be cautious. Let's peel that tape up from there, and you see how I painted right over the top of it, but no paint got on this part of the paper. Excuse me, gotta get a drink of water. So, what this does is it allows me to have this beautiful white color right in front of where I painted all that background, and I didn't have to stress with painting up to the edge of the sail and stopping. So I've got I had all the free, loose flowing lines happening in my background color without losing the white that I need for the sail. Alright, so all that tape is off there. And look how good that background looks behind those sails. It already looks great and I didn't even paint the color on the sails yet. So let's see here. I need my water to extend in a little bit closer to these guys right here. So I'm going to pull that over to there. And because that, I can go ahead if I want. I can change it to a light color so that it shows up better. Do I want to do that or not? I guess I will make this guy be the one wearing the light colored sweater. And over here, let's get a little bit more blue, put a little green. Is that a good color? I think, and let's add a little bit of this. Just the right amount. So there, I just put that guy's arm in there and his sweater. And then I'll use a smaller brush to tweak the background grasses behind him, and that'll push him forward. So put that grass a little bit better there, and then a little bit better on that side. And actually, with my brush being damp, maybe I could zoom in on this part and show you what I'm doing here. Zoom way in. I'm just moving some of this green that's already here over more up to the back side of his head, because I want the head to be having the shape that I want it to have. So there, I put that color in there, and that defines his face a little bit better. And we'll do the same thing on this one on the other side. And I added a little bit extra green, but sometimes just having the water on your paintbrush is enough to move the the paint that's already on the paper over to where you need it. So put that down along there. That's good. Okay, now I'm going to start putting in a little bit of the details of the boat here. I've got a greenish turquoise top of that boat. So I can put that in, and that runs right along here. And then I want to get the color much lighter out to this end, so just to add more water to the paintbrush and spread that color out. That's the top edge of the boat done. And I'm going to put some of my light color here. Let's add a bit of yellow to it. Let's see if I can't make it more peachy instead of tan. Oops, too much red. Oops. Alright, a whole lot more water, and it's a nice light color. And that's good. Oop. Hold on to that brush good. Alright, there's his nice peach colored shirt. Then they need like their hair put in or something. And I don't normally paint with black, but I'm just going to use some Payne's Gray for time's sake here, and just put a little bit of dark hair on this guy. A little bit of dark hair on the other guy. Want his head to look like it's turned just the least little bit. I'll put some darker right there. There, okay. That's their heads in the boat. Now, this brush. Let's see here. Let's work a bit more on these reflections underneath here right quick while it's at the right point. We'll put some dark up under the bottom of the boat. that's really really in shadow. Then I'm gonna just bring that line just a little bit back here. Now I'm going to take some I want to get a brownish color going because there's a little bit of brown on the side of this boat here, but also I need to gray that down. Let's take a little bit of the burnt sienna and just put it right down there, and then I'm going to put some on the edge of the boat there. Then with most of the color washed out of my brush, just drag some over that way. And then I'm going to drag on a little bit of almost a lavenderish blue right along there, right back into here. Get a darker bit of it up underneath there. Looks like it lost the connection, but it reconnected, so hopefully you're still out there hearing what I'm telling you. Alright, a little bit more dot of color there, and let's see here. My preview really weird, so let me just check if things. Okay, it looks like it's deep. More color there, and a water. You don't need a lot of it, but a little bit of that really will help the water look good. And I'm going to get my brush wet and just kind of spread that around. Okay, now I want to use a little bit more of the green color and deepen some of the greens in the water. Oops, too dark. I'm going to lay my brush flat, kind of rub it along there. Unfortunately, my paper is warping a little bit. I'm using paper called Fluid today, and I don't think I like it. I think it warps too easy. But even though I have this taped down, it's really buckling up here and making my paint flow where I don't want it to go. And it also looks like my stream is having trouble getting enough signal, which is disappointing. All I can do though is finish this out and hope that it comes back. And just a little tiny bit more details on the back end of this boat. I need something that kind of looks like lettering. That's going to have to do for that. I'm going to take the same brush and brush in a little bit more green over on this side. And then put a lot of water on it and loosen those edges. So the water on this one is much more green than blue. Alright. Now all I really have to do is paint in the sails. So let me zoom back out so you can see the whole thing there. And getting those the details of the sails in. I think that's going to be about the last thing I need to do. Because I don't think I want to put a whole lot more on here, especially right now with my paper buckling. This paper, it's called, I bought it, I've used it before when it's and I bought this large pad. It's 12 by 16, and it's actually not bonded or adhered on all four edges, only on two, and I find that it doesn't stay flat, and I thought taping it down would really fix that, but it's still buckling on me a whole lot right here, so I'm going to have to let that dry before I work any more on those reflections. But if I go ahead and put these lines in the stripes for this sail, I think I've got a pretty painting going, even though my paper buckled. And let's see, that's right there. Got a bit of color back there. That's pretty good. And I am using the cerulean and cobalt. And we're in. I've got both colors on my paintbrush at one time. And that makes it easy to lay in something that looks good. Go. Okay, now the final details will be just take a bit of brown, which I make by mixing Windsor Violet with either my burnt sienna or I have a Purulene violet that makes a really rich, pretty color. Mixing one of those with some of the burnt sienna gets a pretty chocolate brown color going. If you like it darker than that, you can add a bit of ultramarine blue, which will make it look like that. And that is a nice, beautiful dark color. And I'm going to just use the edge of my paintbrush and tip in a line here. For this mast. And then we need this, I believe this one's called the boom. Need that line right there. And that's pretty good. I am going to gray down some bits of the white in the sail because it's just a little too bright. And I'm going to do that by just getting most of the color rinsed out of my brush and then I can just pull some of the color that's surrounding the sail and just kind of knock that down a little so it's not so bright. And if that muddles the other lines that are on there, that is okay, because it actually looks better to have that muddled just a little bit. Draw a little of that green because it might be reflecting in the light that's reflecting into that sail there, and that just makes it look a bit more natural. And a little bit of that over into here. Again, it just helps it look more natural. And that is pretty good. I think that's about all I really need to do to this one. And there, that helped that. Put that shadow back in the back there. And I think, I wish it wasn't buckling so much. I'd go ahead and peel the tape off now. I might do it anyway, just so we can see how it ends up looking. But that's pretty. It's a nice, pretty sailboat with a beautiful background and some nice reflections in the water. I think actually I do want to put a bit more dark right there. For value purposes, I think it needs to be darker over here. So I'm just going to deepen that a little bit right through there. Get my brush wet when I get down into this part, and that helps loosen it again. Having enough water on there will get the right look going, and the right enough dark up here, just working into a lighter value as you get down into the bottom part of the paper. And one thing that I sometimes do too, if I don't like how it's looking, I decide if I don't like it anyway, I might as well do another really big risky experiment and hit it with my spray bottle. I think mostly I like this one okay, so I'm not going to do that on here, but sometimes that's all you need to do, is just hit it with your spray bottle, give the water a chance to get on there and do some stuff, and like how we let it do its own thing over here, and then it just comes out looking pretty. But for now, I see that it is 3:15, and I didn't intend to go so long. But if I can get this tape to come loose here, we'll peel this tape off so you can see how it looks. I would probably, after it's the whole way dry, go back in and just touch up a little bit of this area on that building there. But again, I don't want to put too much detail on it, because that brings it forward, makes it too much of the focus. It takes it out of the background, and I want the focus to be on the pretty sailboat and on the reflections in the water. So I'm not going to put very much detail at all into those buildings in the background. Just maybe just a couple of spots to show the oops, that's the wrong piece of tape. No, it's not. Just a couple of spots to show windows or doors. Some slightly darker gray spots that look like portals of one sort or another, openings on that building, and shaded areas. One more piece of tape. There we go. And there is that pretty painting for today. Let's see if I zoom in, does it, well, I can't get the whole thing unless I turn it sideways. But that's not good. Let's see, does this view get it? That's it's got mostly all of the picture in it. So there you go. That's our painting for today. I did notice it was having a bit of trouble with the connection, so hopefully it wasn't too bad and you were able to see most of this, and if not, well, I'm pretty sure I've got it set to record, so I'll post the recording and you can watch the replay, which hopefully won't have the glitchy problems in it, but we'll see. Meanwhile, I hope you had fun. I hope it was a nice art break for you, and that it allowed you to let your mind clear from all of the stress and issues and situations and whatever you have going on. It's good to take a little break and get into the creative mode and give your mind a chance to rest from all that stuff that's going on in our daily lives, and also get you into that creative frame of mind so you can think up great solutions to whatever else it is you've got working. So that'll be all for today, and I guess I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.